Book my next book if it's bollocks.
Oh yeah, well we're live now. So the first line into this into this webinar was the word bollocks. Which actually I think there'll be a lot of swearing in this one. But welcome to the Sister Chat today with the amazing Danusia, who honestly, if I read out her bio, it's like unbelievable. And do you know what? I'm not going to do the obvious one that probably people go straight in for the obvious one. I'm going to go speaker and author and podcast host and the founder of School for Mothers. It's an amazing setup, all about basically showing mums and new mums, and not just, you know what, women. Actually women who aren't mums can learn a lot from it. So this isn't chat at all. It doesn't define you, and that and even just being a woman, like that doesn't define you in society, of not being able to go out there and have ambition and have careers and be selfish, and you know, all these things that as women we feel that we're not, you know, allowed to be, or we feel guilty being. But I'm now going to add the last line that of a mum of 10, which basically is. It's not, that's the bit that doesn't define you. It's the bit that makes you go, and watching from the outside, go, fucking hell, if she can do all these things with 10 kids, then there is no excuse for anyone out there on the mother front to not go out and basically live your best life. Have I summed it up?
That's funny. That's funny. I mean, yeah, I mean, my real career, of course, Emma, is it's a consulting career. So that's the bit. I have a professional career that isn't School for Mothers and you know, the kind of mother piece and the parenthood piece. So I added this in, I think in 2018. Was it 2018? Yeah, 2018. But before that, and still now, I still run a big consulting company. So, you know, and that's hence we're talking, you know, books, boardrooms and babies, because that's where I operate, boardrooms. So yeah, I guess it's a good summing up. And thank you for not introducing my baggy vagina as the first thing. Yeah, because, you know, basically, just a caveat, it ain't baggy. But, but nevertheless, there's this kind of assumption of, whoa. I've actually had people say things like, you know, do you have a prolapse? Do you? No. And, you know, kind of anything that I've done in life, and there's quite a few things that aren't children focused, is eclipsed by my kids. I'm like, for some years I was like, can we not mention my children? Just because actually that was a symptom of, I'm Danusia first. I'm Danusia, I'm a human being. I'm a professional. Oh, and yeah, I do actually have 10 children. I adore my kids, of course I do. Wonderful. Little blighters.
And have this whole, as you said, it's like 2018, when you created the School for Mothers, that part of it, so not the consulting part. Was it something that you, at the beginning, were you kind of down this rabbit hole of it's all about being a motherhood? Or is it something that has developed into, no, fuck 'em, I need to be selfish, I need to be me, I need to be Danusia? Or have you always had that all the way through? Have you always been very kind of firm?
Oh, it's a really great question, because I have always been pretty self-defined, actually, always pretty. And I think because I had 4 children by the time I was 22, you know, started at 17, but not planned, and then continued to have the 3, you know, 4 in 5 years, just 5 years, and they're all boys.
Wow.
And, you know, that was a baptism of fire. And I knew that if I wasn't going to drown in being a mum and losing who I was, then I'd have to get pretty smart about it and find ways to find who you know, continue to be myself. But of course, continue to be myself is different when you're 17 to 22 than when you're 40. 44, yeah, because you've already had decades of finding who you are, and when you're 17 to 22, you're finding out who you are. So I was simultaneously finding myself whilst raising kids. And that was a gift, actually. It was good. It was fantastic. And I believe you play the cards you've got. And so I have been kind of excavating the journey of holding on to myself through decades, through 5 kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've had 11 children. One was a stillbirth. So yes, through all of those births, those pregnancies, those children, the literal differences of all those kids, because they're not the same, are they? Every child is so different and brings different challenges and gifts. So I remember
meeting one of your sons, I think, at that Women Expo show, and I said, I can't believe, like 10 of you. And he immediately went, yeah, but have you got twins or a triplet? Or
I've got triplets at the end.
Yeah, triplets at the end. He said, yeah, but there's triplets. I went, it's still 10. It was his response to, yeah, but 3 don't count because they all came out at the same time. So
I didn't realise you'd met Tom. Yeah, he's number 4. He's my 4th son.
Okay, cool.
He's great. Yeah.
And what did you have? So when you and obviously having one at 17, and actually I've got a couple of girlfriends who had them at 17, and actually they were similar to you. It charged them up career-wise to go, no, it's not going to stop me working. It's not going to stop me. Whereas a lot of them, it does stop them. They give it all. What was there something in? Did you have that fire in you?
Well, yeah, I did have that fire in me. I didn't actually. It was when it's good you mentioned Tom. I remember coming home from the hospital, and obviously I had the 3 little ones at home. I think they were 5, 3, 18 months. That kind of distance and gap. And a couple of weeks in, I remember thinking to myself, and now I start my career. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Most people would think, no, you need to stay home. And I had done 5 years. And my husband was incredibly open and progressive at the time. And he was like, do you know what? I'm stuffed with this corporate thing. I want to go part-time. I was like, oh, and I'm stuffed with being at home breastfeeding all day.
And I want to go full-time.
And I want to just go.
Yeah,
it's like
away.
A meeting of minds. So he was like, yeah, you do that. So I did part-time, he did part-time, and that was it. And very, very quickly, I got myself a mentor and a sponsor, both 2 amazing people who said, Danusia, what degree have you got? And I said, I haven't. I've got 4 kids. And they're like, oh, come on. Come on. And also I was on a national committee with Esther Ranson for puerperal psychosis. I didn't have it, but I was so lonely. I was just like, I knew nobody, because all the women were older than me. And I had all these little kids who were lovely. And, I tried to keep them all perfect. And, I was doing such a good little job when I look back, but I was trying so hard. I couldn't find anybody of my age. So I thought, hadn't even heard of the saying, if it isn't there, build it. If it's literally, and I thought, right, I'll build something. So it was in Somerset, and I built this, it was called Meet a Mum, and Esther Ranson set it up for women who were lonely and had postpartum depression. I was isolated and lonely, and so I used to have droves of kids in my big house that we could hardly afford, and they'd come in and they'd wreck the place. They'd leave it, once every 2 weeks, and their toys would be all over this place, but I wasn't as lonely. So I was on this national committee with Esther, really big, kind of role model. And my sponsor and mentor said, you need to get yourself a degree. So I didn't have A-levels, because I had to come out of A-levels, and because I was pregnant. And I decided to go to university and attempt to go to university without A-levels.
With 4 kids.
Yeah, with 4 children. And I did that. I mean, it was difficult, but I actually got places in all of the universities that I went to, that I applied to. And I remember my favourite one was Bath University. Thank you, Bath. Said, gorgeous, fantastic university, said, we really like you. You're obviously, they used to interview, like, really like you. You're fantastic. You know, we see a lot of potential in you, but we'd like you to wait 10 years.
What?
Yeah. And I said, why? They said, well, we noticed that you have these 4 little boys. And so it was in my application. And, you know, you ought to wait. And so I said, thank you very much for the offer of a place, because they gave it but wanted to defer it. And I actually then looked at the other offers that I had and went straight there. Subsequently, like, I think it was maybe 4 years later, once I'd got my 2 next degrees, I went back as a PhD student. And, and my supervisor was there. Yeah, my supervisor was in the business school, Judy Marshall. And I was like, do you know what? If I'd listened to them, I would not have kick-started my career in terms of my degree-based career, if you like, so I became an academic. I would have waited till the boys were 15, then started my career, and then I would have, I mean, like, I would be 10. Actually, my earnings, think about it, just because somebody was thinking they were being thoughtful and helpful by telling me to kind of just be careful with how you do this for yourself, Danusia.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to think about myself.
Yeah, on that, what are the biggest, like, well, I don't know, some of them, like the societal views there, is that how much do you think that the big things that do hold mums back? Or, because I know loads that, you know, that are kind of are doing exactly that. I speak to mums, you know, mums at school gate and stuff, who are like, oh, when they get bigger, then I'll start working. And it's that, you know, it's kind of a sort of either or. A lot of people, you know, what are the biggest things that sort of the myths or misconceptions? Or because obviously it's also totally fine to be a full-time mom and go, no, this is what I've been wanting to be with since I was little, and this is what I'm doing. But this is for kind of the ones that women and mums who think they can't do it.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, so it's a mindset of and, isn't it? It's not either or, it's and it's important to mention that it's a privilege to be able to say it's either or. You know, when I actually was on a podcast earlier this week, and somebody asked me about you know, working, why I'd worked. I was like, well, why I work now? Well, it's not for me, it will be a luxury to not work. I have to work. Actually, let's be real, I want to and I adore it, but I don't have, in my current life, I don't have the opportunity to not work. So this either or thing is really interesting. And in my book, I talk about how it's quite a white debate, the career or kids debate, because the research that I've done really shows that other groups, if you like, other women from other groups, black and brown bodied women, do not necessarily have the option to, they're not perceived as having the option to, you know, take some years off love. Actually, they're more than likely working a few, depending on their ethnic background, working a few jobs. Yeah, so it's very different. So the location I'm in, as a white, now educated woman, I see that there are lots of myths, and I mean, one is that being a mother is the pinnacle of women's life. I mean, come on, it's put forward as the calling, the thing that is. You can be a politician, you could be, you know, you can be a amazing professional, you know, committed woman. But ultimately, having kids is the thing that's really driving you. Yeah,
it's what we're here on earth to do.
Yeah, we're built to have babies. We're supposed to have children, and of course, that's why women who choose not to have children find, I mean, God, it's it's really tough, because justifying why, when they get to a certain age, that they haven't had children is a nightmare. And on the School for Mothers podcast, I mean, I often talk to women who don't have children. They're like, no, you don't want me on because I haven't got children. I'm like, no, I do want you on.
Yeah.
Because I'm not pro-children. I know I've got to shed loads of bloody kids. Don't follow me. I'm an extremist woman. I'm extreme sport. I'm extreme. I do things extreme.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know.
I'm done on. I started get babies late at 35, so 36. So there's no way 10's going to come out.
No, but it's like a mindset of I call it #WatchMe. It's like, really, when that guy, and it was a man, in Bath University told me to wait 10 years, I basically went, watch me. Yeah, just you watch me. Was it hard? Of course it was hard. I went to Lancaster University. I was brought up in the south, and I'd never even gone for one day's holiday up north. God knows where I mean up north, probably past Birmingham. I just hadn't. And so I chose very deliberately to go up north, because I wanted to, very much this mindset of I wanted to experience different things. So it's the myths like guilt, that when we have children, the noise, and that's why I called the book Noise, is because there's all this noise that we're supposed to believe. And when we take it in as kind of truth, well then we accept it as this noise, as this is how it is. And I don't believe that. I have held on to myself because I haven't believed that noise. Things like guilty. Being guilty. Are you guilty? Do you feel guilty, Emma?
I do, and I do, but I've always said it's something that's there. Whatever I do, whichever direction I go, there's an element of guilt, and it's just one of those feelings. I say I've got the different feelings in my head, and I just sit them down and have a cup of tea and go, no, you're being too noisy today. So you sit there, have a glass of wine while I chat to the other feelings. So it's that kind of, I've just gone, it's not going anywhere, and it's not going to stop me and I call it being selfish. I always say, my biggest advice to women and moms is you got to be selfish, and then you get this look back as if I'm kind of the most evil person ever sometimes, saying that you have to be selfish. So I'm like, well, you have to be selfish, because if you're not happy, how are you going to make your children happy? Well, because they feed off you.
Yeah, so one of the things in the book is, one of the biggest pillars, the myths, is that mothers have to be selfless. So motherhood is built on sacrifice, it's built on compromise. We all have to compromise, but it's built on being this thing called selfless. And the reason that I love what you're saying is because really we're engaging in the same territory, which is selfish and selfless. So people think that if you're the opposite of selfless, you're selfish. And of course, women aren't allowed to be selfish, because we're brought up to be other focused, always looking at other people's needs, always thinking how other people are feeling, making them feel good, people pleasing. And we're not then, but if we've got a tiny bit left, if there's any time, then we can look at ourselves. But actually the opposite of selfless is not selfish for me. It's actually, because I turn it round, it's less of self. So what we're being asked as mothers to be is less of ourselves. And so the question of how do you keep being yourself is, well, you don't listen to the noise that you said in your head, which is, I've got to be less of myself. No, you have to be more of yourself. You have to be often women don't really devote much time or even focus on, it's my accountant calling. What's he want? That's literally my accountant's calling. Sorry, just put that there. Hello, accountant. Really what we need to do is to actually be full of ourselves, which is a funny way of saying it, but actually to make sure that we concentrate on and know what we want. Yeah, get really clear on what you want. And so the last thing I'd say about this is the the way that I notice that mothers feel able to concentrate on themselves and be selfish, to be self-focused, is by saying what you just said, which is, well, after all, if I don't do that, what am I teaching my children? So we find it okay if we do it in respect of our children, if it serves our kids, yeah? Rather than really what we need to be doing is because we need it. It's good for our children. Oh yeah, it's good for our children. But actually we're still teaching them that mummy only takes some self-care time because otherwise I'm not such a good mummy. Well, fuck that.
No.
Mummy needs self-care time because mummy
For
needs
mummy.
self-care time. For me, because I'm Danusia. And you know, Danusia needs self-time, self-rejuvenation. Danusia has needs. I don't have needs so that I can be a better mummy for you. No, that still is about them. So, and it's a bit of a mixed message. So we get self-care as a tonic so that we could go do a better job. No. Self-care as a tonic so we can be ourselves. It's a bit of a
I get it.
But, yeah.
It's that me time. I go away with a few girlfriends and who both moms. We have it sanity support weekends. We go and we just go to various like spa hotels and and we need to do it more. And that's the thing. And it's sort of actually because there also is that element of, and women are very good at it. They're being a bit of a martyr.
Yeah.
Of being, you know, and they're whining about it and complaining about it. And I often go, well, what are you doing about it? You mean you can go away. You can say to your husband, I need to go away for a few nights or a night, or go out one evening with the girls. And the fact that you're not, but you're whining about it, oh, I'm just exhausted and it's all about the kids. It's like you're choosing to be a martyr. And so that sort of null and void.
Well, Eve Rodsky in the book, which is a brilliant book called Fair Play, she calls it complicit in your own oppression. And she's basically, you know, if you turn up somewhere and you're just whining about your husband's, what he doesn't do, what you wish, I mean, you could spend the time much more productively and actually getting an action plan, doing something about it, you know what I mean? Or just, you know, helping each other get out of what it is rather than wallowing. So yeah, it's so important to find what it is that nourishes us, whether it's wild swimming, whether it's you know, your vibrator for half an hour, whether it's you know, or an hour, or both.
Something and a vibrator.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
And
waterproof
wine.
one, and wine, or you know, I gave up drinking a couple of years ago, which you know, I was somebody that did champagne courses. You know, I really loved champagne, and it wasn't just a love of drinking, you know, and an enjoyment of the social part of it. It was actually, I really was a connoisseur of this. So for me, it was a hobby, something that was something for Danusia. But actually, I thought it was good to have an experiment. So for me, that was an extreme experiment. Wasn't as extreme as some of them I've done, but it was quite extreme. It's like,
Have you still given up? No.
Yeah. I was like, what would it be like? Because I rather liked having a glass of wine, writing, you know, it was part of my kind of, I don't know, almost ritual of getting that, uncorking something, pouring it, you know, and then writing away. And I thought, my writing's going to be shit without any booze involved. That's not the case. I've actually really loved it.
There's a lot of habit in, isn't there? A lot of that thing. I realised that a few months ago, and especially the last year, I suddenly thought, there hasn't been a night, and not massive, but a night where it's got to about 6 o'clock, and it's that chill out time before kids go to bed and stuff, where I just open a bottle of wine and have a glass, even if it's one glass. Most nights it'll be one glass. It's not, you know, there's no drinking problem. I just thought, I don't need it. And I actually tried for a few nights not to, and every part of me was going, I need that wine. And I'm thinking, it's just a glass. It's not a case of needing to be shit-faced. And it made me realise how much of a habit that pouring,
It's a ritual. It's just a ritual. So it's like brushing your teeth. It's like the order that you do things. So if if you teach your neural pathways to actually do that, then before long, you just, and of course, because of alcohol, what it does, you know, you'll want another one, your threshold to change. So it's interesting. I found that really interesting, actually, doing that. And personally, my sleep has been radically altered. Actually, my ability to be toxic to myself, because I'm really a very positive, very, just very on target person. That doesn't mean to say that I've had enormous blips and fuck ups. You know, I mean, it's not that. It's just that I confine myself. Yeah, confine myself, and I confine what I want. But actually, giving up booze has been really interesting, because those 3 o'clock in the mornings, kind of berating self-talk, the negativity, I don't have any of that. And I didn't know that was linked. I couldn't see that. I just couldn't see it.
That's me, yeah. There probably is, just thinking about it. That's when, we had quite a heavy weekend this weekend, and the last couple of nights the brain has been going. That's the
And there's enough noise, isn't there? There's enough noise around without then, for me, pouring that toxicity. So I'm not kind of like this evangelist at all. I don't often talk about it, actually. A little bit more recently, but you know, it's 2 years, and it hasn't always been a popular choice with my girlfriends. You know, one of my closest girlfriends has found it actually really, really difficult.
Because I've got 3 girlfriends who don't drink, and I've had conversations with 2 of them recently, because it's been about a year, and so they've said some of the shit that their girlfriends are giving them, they're just like, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference to me whether someone drinks in front of me or doesn't drink. You know, I'll still invite them out, but there's some people that just can't, you know, they just can't get their head around it.
Well, it denotes something for them, and also, you know, it's a bit like when someone gets divorced. I mean, in married couples, it's like, what happens now?
People. No, the single people could steal your husband.
Yeah, or it just also, it kind of shines a light on your stuff, because everyone's got their stuff. So it's like, let's just make sure we don't think about that, you know. So let's look this way, and that's the same with drink, I think. So it becomes a bit difficult for some people. It just alters your sense where we are. We have to look at ourselves. So it's good, but I've been all the more on kind of more distilled as myself, able more to find myself, and that's I wouldn't have credited that. I really wouldn't. I'm a party girl.
And that and the book, you know, noise and that. What your advice on that? Because sometimes the noise is so loud, and especially, you know, if you've got littlies, and it's just there's, you know, their needs, they really need you, you know, all the time. It's the advice to what your go-tos to get away from that noise and be you, and you know, especially in the last year, it's been hard because it's just all on top. You know what I mean? Yeah. On top of you.
Well, the first thing to do is, apart from buy the book, I mean, you know, I was asked the other day, so what's the answer? It's like, it's
buy the book.
It's a little Bible. I know. I'm just like, it's obvious. Just buy the book, which is crass. It's really crass, but makes me laugh. And it's actually accept the fact that the noise will always be there. Like, the noise is there, but more than that, it's what is the noise that's getting to you. Because the noise that gets to you, Emma, might be different than the noise gets to me. So it's working out what's noise, and where did that noise come from? Is it actually your noise, or is it some other buggers, you know, or somebody else's that like literally told you years ago something that is it's your family's, it's something you've picked up, it's something you've picked up at a club, or a, you know, it's something that's been installed in you that you don't really realise, you don't recognise isn't your stuff, and you're carrying along, adhering to a rule that actually you don't need to do. So we have choice about the noise and realising where your Achilles heel is, actually. And so for many people, they'll realise, but I framed it in such a way that, you know, it's one of the big pillars is about mothers must be sexy and sexless. So it's both. And different women occupy different places in this, actually. Again, because of our structural locations. And so really kind of, what's the way to put this? Like getting curious. What's your noise? What's the noise that takes you down, takes you away from yourself, and kind of tweaking your relationship with that. It's not about eradicating it and putting ear defenders on and going, I'm not going to hear the noise. Well, you have to go and live off-grid somewhere because it's everywhere. You know, you turn on the TV, you read a paper, you meet a friend who may make some innocuous, just flippant comment about something. It could really trigger your noise. It will be your noise. It's like, oh my God. So it's really getting to know yourself about the noise. That's it. And because mothers, we vigilantly put mothers under or such high expectations. We have such enormous, inhumane expectations of mothers in our society. So,
yeah, and then we have it externally, like looking in at mums, and as a mum, that of keeping up and being the perfect mum and that's the thing. I think I had kids late, at 36, and I was very stuck in my ways at that point. I'm pretty secure and very self-aware, and I just didn't give a fuck how people judged me, and I was like, I'm still going to go out, I'm still going to, and it was actually my husband that said that I'd kept so quiet with friends having kids and bailing last minute on coming to lunches and coming this, and always the excuse was the children. And I remember going to him, it can't be that hard, you can't have to give up your life or your social life, but I couldn't say anything because I wasn't in their position. I didn't have kids. So he said as soon as we had our first one, he said he could tell I was on this mission to prove them all fucking wrong and be able to I remember pumping boobs 6 weeks after Raph was born in a car park of a party. It was a Halloween party, and I had like 3 layers of Spanx on and some witch's outfit, and my boobs were exploding, and it was midnight, and I had to sit in the car with a pump going, ah! But I was out. I was out. But there's that.
Well, that's because it's such a pressure to actually, all that noise is in your head. You'll have taken it in. And so the other piece is that we contribute to the noise, don't we? It's not just external or internal. We then take this stuff that's inside of us and then we spew it out to other people. So you're really great that you didn't say anything to people, because the contributing noise is huge. It really is.
That's the thing, and you can't say it because everyone manages it all differently, and everyone wants different things and is driven by different things. And that's the thing, you're probably like me. What's driven me since I was little is like world domination and work, and making changes, and I questioning everything and going, this isn't right, and that needs to be done in a woman's way, and why can't girls do it? And it's that's always been my drive. Kids aren't my drive. I love them, but like you, it's sort of, whereas to a lot of people and a lot of friends I know, kids are their drive and have been their drive since they were little. So it's that, each their own.
Exactly. And that's the big difference with I'm really proud actually that this particular motherhood book, people keep saying it's so different, because motherhood books tend to be books that tell us how to do it, books that tell us who to be, and books that give us a formula for it. And I was committed to not doing that to women, because we've got enough of that fucking noise already. I didn't. My challenge was, how do I write about the noise of being a motherhood and how to modernize it without being noisy, without imposing Danusia's stuff on women, because that's just more of the same shit. And so I know that that's what it isn't. I know that that's successful. I know that it's written in a way that women can find themselves, not Danusia's version. And that means I've had to overcome that myself, within myself, of like, okay, so it's not here's how I do it, follow my 6 steps, and you'll be a 7-figure businesswoman, 8-figure businesswoman, and have 10 kids. How unbelievably interesting, but fucking stupid, because actually I'm starting from very different places from lots of people. you know, so that's one of the things it doesn't do. That's quite something, you know, really quite something. And I had to put memoir in it as well. So
did you?
yeah, I did. I put memoir, and they're very distinct pieces. So if you know, you can tell because it's all the italic bits. So if you really want to read nothing else, you can kind of go just through the whole.
Through your bit.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I'm told it's funny, so that's good.
Yeah, well, I've seen you speak, and that's the thing. The first time I met you, you were speaking, and I think your title, and the power and energy when you just took that stage. I was like, whoa! And you know, talking about, you know, bucket vaginas, and I was like, I am hooked. I'm in on this. But I think you were that was don't be bold, be brazen. I think
don't be
something
big,
like
be
that.
brazen, something like that. Yeah, because we're always talking about being big, aren't we? As opposed to actually, there's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You know,
And
to be brazen.
on that, what are your tips on that? Like, what have you found in your experience in, you know, the corporate world of like owning that boardroom and sort of backing yourself? Because that's the other thing. The big issue with, you know, women in business is a lack of confidence. So yeah, on that front of being brazen, I call it shameless. I would say to people, just have no shame in it.
Oh dear, my person really wants me, don't they? So what I would say is, I'll be brazen. Could I call you back, please? Thank you.
Exactly that thing, brazen, shameless, and unapologetic. That's what I just say.
Right, you know, willing to fail. I think the biggest thing is tapping into where, you know, instead of being energetically like focused on fear, which, you know, we all have, we're very human, actually converting that into being willing to fail. Like, there is nothing wrong with failing, because I work with so many, you know, from many billionaires, right, I mean, massive companies that you'll know, you know, huge ones, brands. Every single chief exec, chairwoman, chairman, you know, COO, all of the big people who running huge deals have failed spectacularly. I mean, like, there is not one that I have met that has had this smooth sailing, like, oh, it just fell all into place. Forget it. It's not ever going to fall into place. And so we have to be willing to be occasionally terrified in order to up level and to brazenly, to like amplify out. What I do is, like, what's the wish? What's the bigger one up there? Let's take it a little bigger. Go on. What's next? Like, until you're so scared that you go, yeah, but that's ridiculous. I couldn't go for that. No, let's go. Like, take it bigger and bigger. And it's about that audacity. The audacity to actually ask for more, to step into more. And it is audacious. When I was having the triplets, taking it to the children, I remember I was in my late 40s, middle to late 40s, where I was like told that I was having triplets and that I ought to reduce.
You cry when you found out?
No, the sonographer cried.
Okay.
The woman that scanned me cried. I didn't cry. She cried because it was the last scan of her entire 21-year career. So she was, and they were live. She'd seen triplets before, but they weren't all alive. These were alive. And so I had the big talk, which is an obvious medical talk, to say, let's reduce them. Let's take them down. It'll be less risky for you. You'll get live babies at the end. Let's do this for you. And so it was audacious to say, I am not doing that. No. I'm going to see what my body can do. Now, I have friends that took a different route. So it isn't a judgment about that, actually, not at all. You've got to do what's right for you. But I wanted to see where my edges were. I wanted to see. And the biggest thing was that my biggest fear would have been, can I cope with losing a baby? Well, I'd already lost babies. Can I cope with burying a baby? Well, I've already buried a baby, actually. I've been through that scattered ashes. So, I've done that. Do I want to do it again? No. But I can do it. So what would stop me? So it's that audacity to go, and what's bigger? What's bigger than that? Yeah. So that's the thing. Being brazen is size and willingness to fail. They're the two top ones. I can say more, but that's the thing. It's a state of being to be brazen, shameless.
I always say it's what's the worst case scenario? When I say, why aren't you doing it? I'm like, well, what's the worst possible thing that can happen? And if you can deal with it, and as you said, with the babies, it's horrendous, but you dealt with it, and you could deal with it.
Well,
and that's the worst thing that could happen.
Exactly. It's really about a vote for yourself, because when we don't, what we're really saying is, could I cope with that? Do I have what it takes to be able to do that? Do I have what it takes to, get up and say, I lost a first business? I haven't personally, but I know a lot of those people that I was talking about earlier with, the incredible big businesses. They've lost businesses, or they've plummeted in their careers. They've made absolute corporate fuck-ups, and they've risen. So the difference between people is, are you going to stay down, or are you going to rise? You're just going to get up. Because you can be sure as damn it, the two of us have had amazing, terrible things. I know I have. Absolutely. Disastrous things have happened. And I really do mean, really pretty awful things that I'm, I do talk about, and things that I'm waiting for a chance to talk about, because actually I'm like, well, lest I get that out in the air, because somebody's going to need to hear it. Because the more that we talk about the fact that we haven't had this smooth, linear path to where we are, it's really important. Because, I'm often heralded in as this kind of superwoman. I'm like, oh, give it over. Please. It does a disservice to other women. It does a disservice to people, actually. So, I'm becoming more and more vocal about absolutely terrible things that have happened.
Yeah, me too, the last few years. Because actually it's just sort of, you don't want to be on that pedestal with people going, well, you've got all... It's like, no, because when you do, people go, oh, you're normal, and we're not alone, and it can happen. It's happened to us, and actually, I think you inspire people more with that the failures and the fuck ups and the shitty experiences than you do by going, this is where I am, and this is what my business is worth. This is, that perfect. That's that's not inspiring, to be honest, because it looks unobtainable.
And also there's something very important about not curating vulnerability, because then we have to think very carefully about, well, why am I saying this? Am I just doing this to be relatable? No, I'm doing this because actually it's important to break open this perfection model and break open the myth that actually if you follow these steps everything will be fine. You can follow a formula and it still might not be great. But what you've got to do, what we've all got to do, is find the metal in us, the spirit in us, the resilience. That's how confidence builds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Confidence builds when you rise, when you show up again.
when you fuck up and you realise you're still alive. And you've still got a roof over your head, and you're still, the world did not implode around you.
Exactly, that's exactly where confidence comes from. And so going on confidence courses is great, but actually living life raw and swinging,
and taking the risk and getting into fear and in awkward positions and awkward situations, feeling really uncomfortable, that's when it happens.
That's when you build confidence and having uncomfortable conversations and making the asking for what you want, but you've got to find out what you want first. Yeah.
And just finally, you've got a second bit. Is that out? It's not out already yet, is it?
No, it's not out already. It's coming in November, and it is called Spunk.
Nice.
And nice. Spunk, a manifesto modernising fatherhood.
Oh, nice! I love it.
It's about fatherhood, yes. So I've conducted lots of research, and I'm host of School for Fathers podcast. So I've been gathering all this research about, you can't really talk about motherhood and modernising that if you're just leaving fathers.
Yeah, because it's that's the thing. It's a
Yeah.
shit show for them. It's like they don't know where to turn or what to do, or you
Yeah.
know. And I hate it when women go, "Well, fuck them. It's been all about them for like centuries." It's like, no, we're in this together, and
We are in
actually
this
we
together.
can't do a lot. Yeah, you probably couldn't do what you did in universities and without a really supportive other half. That's part of it, isn't it? That kind of being
Yeah.
a career woman, a mother, having ambition, having hobbies. That's teamwork that does that, and having someone by your side as a partner, and the tribe around it. I always say it's the support system, whether you know your friends, the people you work with, your other half. That's what enables us to have it all.
Yeah, exactly. It is very much about teamwork, and I also have to say that for big parts of my career, I've been a single mother, and I am a single mother. So, I'd rather have no male partner than have an unsupportive one.
Yeah.
So, actually, it is really important to get your domestics and you know get the domestics and the childcare and the negotiating, which going back to difficult conversations, really having that straight is crucial. Because if it's all on you, then, well, you know, it's too hard. So yeah,
that raising a village. Well, no, raising a child takes the village, but you know, but also raising, I think, businesswoman takes the whole sisterhood of supporters behind you.
It does. Yeah, so it's been sisterhood for me. It's been there's some amazing men that have both sponsored my career, opened doors, literal boardroom doors. You know, hired me in, hired my company in, because it's all behind the scenes. None of it's like marketing. It's all referrals, and you know, I built it up with associates, etc. And there's lots of men that I would thank so much for that. And there ain't nothing like sisterhood.
Yeah, big time. That's what I've always said. I've had my tribe of girls around me for like 20 odd years. Haven't changed.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah,
cool.
That's the big thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll put
you.
the book is Noise, and we'll put the link and everything on there. And I think you're going to post it in the sister group as well. So
I will do. Okay. Thanks for
that was
having me.
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, darling. Take care.